Hey friends, I just recorded a little chat over in the members only section about the journalism classes that I've been taking recently. And while talking about that, whenever I was editing, it made me think about something in regards to the KallMeKris video about Gypsy Rose Blanchard that Alora from Into the Weeds and I went over on their live stream last night. I saw a lot of you in the chat. Thank you for being in there. If you haven't seen it, go take a look. It was a really long one, but I think it was a good live stream. And one thing I want to be very, very clear about, which we were super clear about in the live stream, we're fans of KallMeKris. We like her. We don't have a problem with her at all. The reason why we reviewed it was we wanted to correct some things. There were occasional moments where we're just like, what was our research team doing? Like with a few little mistakes, but that is fine. Mistakes happen. We like her. And the reason why that we did it is we're hoping if she does decide to revisit the video and correct some things, that our review and correction of the errors will help her out with that. We're a fan of her channel. We're a fan of her husband's channel, Upaville. So yeah, we in no way reviewed it to down on Chris at all. We enjoy her content. So now that I've made that probably over clear from what I needed to, what I want to talk about is the thing that tripped Chris up here is the fact that she uses 100% mainstream media sources. And in the past, that has been a pretty solid boundary for a content creator to have for themselves to try and avoid misinformation and, AI crap and stuff like that. Not that we can't all tell AI videos generally and stuff like that, but there are entire websites that appear to be news that are being created through AI just to get that ad click money. You do have to be very, very careful these days, and only using trusted mainstream media sources has always been a pretty solid way for content creators to try and avoid the trap of repeating misinformation by accident, thinking that they'd source something pretty good. But the question I got to thinking about whenever I was talking on the other chat about all the different types of journalism that I'm learning about in these classes is a strategy like that still valid in the podcast age, in the podcast social media content creator age? Because like I was saying in the other video, New York University and Rolling Stone magazine, their collaborative editors for this class seem to be pretty much of the opinion that content creators aren't journalists per se, but sometimes produce or create acts of journalism, which do meet the criteria. Some of those acts of journalism done by content creators have been really huge recently, especially even in the true crime community. I'm sure we all know and remember that a few years ago, the van where poor Gabby Petito, RIP to her, the van was found by YouTubers who were using Google Earth, I believe, to go over the area and search for Gabby. So there is a lot of validity to content creators and YouTubers in their investigative acts of journalism, putting together of stories and reporting and stuff like that. In that age, is it still valid to only look at mainstream media sources as the only credible ones? Right now, for people who want to look into the Gypsy Rose Blanchard story, if they don't look at what's been put out in the most recent FOIA videos from Into the Weeds, they're behind on most of the information that most of the people paying attention to this case know. And a lot of things are going to come across very inaccurately. Into the Weeds has put out all their FOIA information in a Google Drive with the documented timeline sourcing in there of all their receipts. They put out screenshots of the emails where they first request the FOIA, the response emails, the screenshots of the receipts where they paid for the FOIA. I feel like, in my opinion, the way that FOIA is sourced and made available to people in a Google Drive ought to be enough for it to be used and to cause a person to either make exception or begin re-evaluating a personal policy of mainstream media only sources. Same with Gabby Petito being found. I mean, what if everybody would have just ignored that van discovery because it came from a YouTuber? There are a lot of more incidents like that I'm sure I just can't think of right now. But yeah, that's the question that I've been asking myself. I know for a long time that's just been the regular standard for content creators to try and avoid problems for themselves. Mainstream media only sources. In the podcast era, where there are channels that all they do is get FOIAs over and over and put out body cam footage, and they're very successful, and other channels, myself included, use those channels and source them, and they appreciate it as long as they're credited properly and that type of thing. In the age where FOIAs are being done and put out on a more regular basis by content creators than by the actual mainstream media, I'm not sure that policy holds up anymore. And I hope KallMeKris really reevaluates that for herself. If she decides to do another video on the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case, she may not. She might be scared away like Bailey Sarian clearly was. She said she was going to revisit and apparently just, walk the hell away. Who can blame her? It's a little toxic sometimes, but still. Anyway, I hope that you've all enjoyed my little ramble, maybe had some thoughts provoked. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is it still a valid strategy, mainstream media only, especially in the context of true crime, when you have so many creators doing, once again, their acts of journalism, putting out FOIAs that the mainstream media isn't, and that kind of thing. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, friends. We'll go out with a little more Feline palette cleanser. Have a good day.